Welcome back, my pack, my tribe. Sorry about that. I think it cut off when I wasn't paying attention. But before the break, I was talking about Suzanne Degnan. It was a 6-year-old girl. I just posted her pic in our chat room. That was killed by Edwards. Well, I should say it was possibly killed by Edwards, because we don't really know for sure. But it was the same MO as another one that we believe he committed, which was JonBenet Ramsey. But Suzanne Degnan, who's pictured there, was Edwards' first known murder of a 6-year-old girl, lured out of her own home to a basement and killed while her parents slept. He dismembered her in a wash basin. He left a false ransom note, and 50 years later, he killed JonBenet Ramsey in a similar MO. Suzanne was beheaded and dismembered in a basement. Edwards spread her remains throughout the sewers of Chicago and taunted the family, press, and police with false letters and phone calls. Edwards documented Suzanne's killing in his book. He will detail the 3 hours he had with her in a basement. Oh, I guess so. We do know that he did commit that one because he admitted it. Wow. Wow. Now this one is just speculation, but it says here, January 15th, 1947, Los Angeles, California, Edwards, age 13, kills 22-year-old Elizabeth Short, known as the Black Dahlia. Edwards detailed the year 1946 through 47 in his book, portions of which describe Elizabeth Short's injuries. Edwards confessed to the killing in 2002 on a website he developed called blackdahliasolution.org. Admitted to being 13 and in Los Angeles the morning after the murder. In January, and this is a direct quote from him, by the way. In January of 1947, I was 13 years old. I loved riddles and murder mysteries. I regularly listened to radio programs like Suspense, The Whistler, Lights Out, and Inner Sanctum, and I was impressionable. On January 16th, 1947, I read Friend Tortures, Kills Girl, Leaves Body in L.A. Lot. In the morning, L.A. Examiner headlines. The front page article said that the girl was nude and bisected at the waist. On January 18th, 1997, the 50-year anniversary of Edwards luring the Black Dahlia to a hotel room in Los Angeles, Edwards posted the way he felt when he was 13 years old on Google Blogs. March 5th, 1997, Edward Wayne Edwards, alias Joe Gorbit, I think it says, Google Blogs. 1947, January 22nd, Hollywood, California. Edwards is pictured in the Los Angeles Examiner at age 13 and a half, standing with Elizabeth Short in a photo booth shortly before her death. And actually, this is undeniable, this part here. We know that he was definitely with her because of this picture, and I'm going to post this in chat as well. Can't see it very well unless you zoom in, but that is definitely Elizabeth Short, and that is definitely Edward Wayne Edwards at age 13. He looks a lot older than 13 there, but He is only 13. Then it doesn't stop with the Dahlia, because in June of 1947, FBI reports attempting to ID Edwards. Edwards never gets identified in 1947. His deep resentment for his mother and older people is reflected in his first 3 murders. He is caught burning a Bible in Akron, Ohio, and is sent to St. Gerard's Catholic Reformatory in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. He has been diagnosed as a sadomasochist with deep dislike for old people. And that's pretty much covers him from 1933 to 1949. And it goes on and on and on and on and on. Oh my God, seriously, this guy. If there is any truth to this, oh my God, he is responsible for so many unsolved crimes. It's ridiculous. Including the Zodiac killings. Because let's see here. Let me find it real quick. Yeah, right here. Which wasn't just in California, by the way. He committed similar crimes in both Ohio and in Oregon. February 7th in Akron, Ohio of 1970, Edwards' second child, David Edwards, is born. And then in March 14th of 1970 in Portland, Oregon, a guy by the name of Robert Brahm was convicted for Edwards' killing in the 1960 Lover's Lanes murder of Larry Payton and Beverly Allen. Which Edwards actually prided himself on the fact that he got other people convicted for shit he did, by the way. 1970, March 22nd, in Patterson, California, on a Sunday night, Edwards terrorizes pregnant Kathleen Johns, leaving her alive to describe him and burning her car. He sends a letter taking credit for it, adds the Zodiac. Edwards speaks of killing ladies and babies and metamorphosis of a criminal. Another fellow had been doing with the girl and had gotten her pregnant. When they both decided they didn't want the child, he attempted to abort it by stabbing her in her swollen abdomen with an ice pick. He was successful in getting rid of the baby and his girlfriend as well. One murderer had killed his small child during an argument with his wife. He had been holding the child in his arms when one of his wife's remarks made him uncontrollably angry. He slammed the child down on the sidewalk. See, this dude is slick. He's basically admitting that he did the shit, but he's talking about it as if it were somebody else. And one of the things he was actually diagnosed with was what do they call it? Personality dissociative disorder. And this is one of the letters actually written by the Zodiac. This is the Zodiac speaking. I am rather unhappy because you people will not wear some nice Zodiac symbol buttons. So I now have a little list, starting with women the woman and her baby that I gave a rather interesting ride for a couple hours one evening a few months back. They ended in my burning her car where I found them. Man, man, oh man, oh man, and it's just like if there's any truth to this, he is responsible for serial killings attributed to other people, mind you, from 1933 all the way up to 2010 when he died. Um, Probably the one that kind of like personally pisses me off the most. Um, Hold on, let me find it. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Was the West Memphis 3 killings. Um, and ironic as it is, the part that pisses me off the most has very little to do with Edwards himself. For those that don't know, let me clarify a little bit. 3 guys were falsely convicted and imprisoned, and the whole case was just, quite frankly, bullshit. They had nothing on these kids, yet they served 20 years in prison. Damien Eccles, Jason Baldwin, and Jesse Miskelly were arrested in 1993 and spent 18 years in prison for a murder that Edwards committed. And this creepy bastard, this is how I know he did this one, by the way. They made a documentary, which I'm going to share the link for right now in chat. They made a documentary called Paradise Lost, which was all about the West Memphis 3 killing. And I'm going to go ahead and post this in chat too. But this is just a clip from the documentary. It's 2 of the parents at the gravesite of their son. And they're the parents of one of the victims. And you'll see an old man in the background walking kind of back and forth. Well, that old man in the background is none other than Edward Wayne Edwards. Which is, just all kind of screwed up. But you know, there was absolutely like I was saying, there's absolutely no physical evidence at any point against any of these three, Damien Eccles or Jason Baldwin. Or Jesse Miss Kelly. There was absolutely no physical evidence. There was no DNA. There was nothing. There was nothing tying them to these three little boys. They were arrested. Well, okay, let me clarify. Jason Baldwin and Jesse Miss Kelly were arrested because people in that area didn't like the way that Damien Eccles looked because he was a goth kid. And because they associated with him, that must mean that they're in on it too. And because he's a goth kid, well, everybody knows those kids all worship the devil. Fuck that bullshit. And honestly, I love cops. I have cops in my family, so I love cops. But honestly, if I ever have the opportunity to go to West Memphis, Tennessee, and meet the cop that investigated this case, that locked these three innocent boys up, I might slap his face. Because the way these kids were treated was absolutely disgusting. And I'm not even saying that they're, angels or anything. Certainly, they probably weren't. They were probably, smoking weed, probably doing other drugs too. But that doesn't make them killers. It's just ridiculous. And what's really fucked up, by the way, is that this kind of thing happens more and more, like all the time. Like I'm sure at least some of you out there have probably watched the show Cold Justice, and I think that is a fantastic show. And I don't want to take anything away from either of those gals. I think they're great, and I think they're angels sent from heaven. I really do. Um, but I do have a big problem with how circumstantial cases are handled a lot of the times. Like if you handle it the way that they handle it, and it's done right, it's a good thing. But the problem is like too many times, um, that there's not enough circumstance. Like the way she explains it on that show is like she'll take like she'll take a pencil and she'll break it. All right, you know, this is a circumstance, and she'll break it. All right, but if you take this little fact and this little fact and this this little fact and this little fact, and keeps adding pencils and like binds them together, and it becomes unbreakable. If it's a case like that, it's a beautiful thing. Don't get me wrong, but there are a lot of circumstantial cases that are not handled that way. That like maybe they'll only have one or two sets of circumstances, and they take it as fact. You know, or they're not seeing the whole picture, and therefore innocent people end up in prison because of stuff like this. You know, I'm not saying that every case is that way, but certainly some are. So, if there is any truth to it, this guy is definitely I think, probably the most prolific, serial killer that ever existed. Um, I mean, we do know that he's a serial killer for sure. He admitted and was convicted and actually died in prison, convicted of, I think, like 5 different killings. But like, there's so many, like, this author like attributes to this guy, Edward Wayne Edwards, that quite frankly, just looking at the tons of evidence this guy collected, I gotta tell you, I think he's absolutely correct, because like he even went as far as to uh, do handwriting analysis, using a Christmas card that we know Edward sent, and comparing it to the handwriting of the Zodiac letters, and they were identical. Now, that's not absolute proof, but it is a very, very good indication. And the sorry, thunder outside. Um, the West Memphis case wasn't his last either. He killed uh, John Benet Ramsey, according to this author. Um, and she wasn't the last either. His last killing was in let's see, I believe 2009 or 2010. Hmm. Oh, that's the other thing that this author theorizes, and I kind of agree, because there were a lot of things about the case that didn't fit the guy that actually got convicted of it, and that's the Lacey Peterson case. After March 22nd, 2005, Modesto, California, after Scott Peterson is sent to San Quentin, Edwards starts taunting a blog site devoted to the Lacey and Scott Peterson case. Edward used the moniker IKLP, which stood for I Killed Lacey Peterson. Edward sent 2 codes to the blogging group. April 9th of 2005, Edwards posted on Google that his theory that Bill McReynolds, a friend of John and Patsy Ramsey's, killed John Bonet. Yeah, that's just him trying to pin it on somebody else like usual. Let's see. This one kind of pissed me off too. 2008, June 14th, Fort Bragg, North Carolina. He murdered Megan Lynn Tuma, who was 7 months pregnant, and it was planned to occur on Edward's 75th birthday. Edward strangled and drowned Megan Torma in a bathtub at the Fairfield Inn, Cross Creek Mall near Fort Bragg. He killed her and her unborn child and drew the zodiac sign in lipstick on the dresser mirror. There he goes, the lipstick again. He committed the murder at the Cross Creek Mall to tie the location to the zodiac cross and circle. Edwards was making a statement in his last killings. He was the Zodiac Killer from 1968 and the Lipstick Killer from 1946. Edwards sent a Zodiac Killer letter claiming he was at the scene. And she was in the Army, by the way. Which is partly why it pissed me off. Let's see. Okay, so his last murder was in 2008, and on July 30th of 2009, he was arrested for his first murder. And he died in 2010. But That's so crazy. That's so wild. To think that one guy committed all those murders and never got caught until like right before his death, because he was only like he got arrested in 2008 for one murder. Think about that for a second. If this is all true, right, and he committed all these crimes, I mean, he's got to be a very sick, twisted genius to have done all of that and not got caught. Oh, and then here's the thing that kills me. He lived in Doylestown, Ohio at one point. From 1974 to 1978, he lived in 3 different homes in Doylestown, Ohio. Doylestown is literally like a 10-minute drive from my house, if even that. It says, we lived in 3 different homes while in Doylestown. The first home, a farmhouse, Dad burnt down the barn. I believe it was for insurance purposes. He later attempted to burn down the house. His first attempt left the house still standing, therefore he went back and finished burning it down. The second house we lived in was a rental. We lived there while we were building our other home. Our third home, I believe, was on Wayne Road or Edwards Road. We moved in before the building was finished. It was at this time, I believe, something happened to kids or teens in the area. I remember hearing stories of kids missing, and I also believe it was while we were living in Doylestown that Wayne took us for a walk in the weeds, and we supposedly came upon a body or bodies. We didn't see any bodies. We were just told that there were bodies. I was very young at the time, and my memory is quite foggy on this event. It was also during this time that my great-aunt Lucille was visiting us. One wet night, my dad came home all muddy. The next day was when we heard kids were missing. My aunt questioned my dad on this. She suspected him of something, so much so she talked about it with some of us kids. Now see here, we've caught him in a lie with this whole statement. He's talking about all of this as if he were children, as if he were a child at the time. This was in 1974 to 1978. Oh, wait, no. I am sorry, I misunderstood. This is actually written by his kid. Wow. Okay, that changes everything. Holy crap, I just realized that. Okay, that changes so much. Wow. Holy crap. That's crazy. So that's a good indicator right there that there's at least some truth to what that author John Cameron is saying about Edward Wayne Edwards. That is just nuts. I mean, seriously, my God. But what's crazy is like I don't even know how to put it. Oh my God. What's really insane about it is like it seems so like monumental. If there's truth to all this, that he could be responsible for so many deaths. It boggles the mind, to be honest. It truly does. And probably the most sucky thing about it is he's created hauntings, because a lot of the places that we're talking about attributed to him are in fact haunted. People are reporting hauntings in West Memphis at the site, which was, I think, like some kind of body of water. I don't remember what. I think it was like a little pond or whatever. Um, in West Memphis, where those three boys were killed. They're seeing like they're not really orbs. They're more like ghost lights because of like their brightness and their size. But they have been reported there. And there's three of them. So that's kind of good indication of what's up there. Um, the haunting is tied to Elizabeth Short, and there's been a few uh, ghost car sightings in the Lovers Lane area. Well, the one Lovers Lane area in here in Ohio, and then there's another one in Chicago, and then probably the most prolific one, the one tied directly to the Zodiac, is in California, near San Francisco. But they're like ghost cars, like somebody's parked there, you know, doing typical Lovers Lane kind of thing, but there's no car really there. Like people see the car, but they'll also see through the car. There's also been there's been a lot of haunted stuff going on with the former home of John Benet Ramsey. Um, and I don't recall the exact address um, right off the top of my head, but I do believe they are listed with trying to remember the name of that site. There's a website that tells you if there's haunted history with the house that you're potentially buying, and I can't remember the name of it. But if you Google haunted property, it'll probably bring it up. In fact, it might be called haunted property now I think about it, or haunted real estate, or something to that effect. But yeah, like so much destruction in this guy's wake, and he's caused a lot of hauntings. He has, including he himself. He haunts the prison he died in, which was. Hold on. Having a brain fart, and I don't remember what prison that was. Let's see. I think the wiki page might have it. Oh, here in Ohio. Edwards died of natural causes at the Corrections Medical Center in Columbus, Ohio, on April 7th, 2011. So he died in 2011, not 2010. So there you have it. Alright. We got, about 2.5 minutes left, folks. So I'm going to go ahead and end it tonight. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Tune in next week. It should be really cool. We're going to be talking about a very, very cool topic, actually. We're going to be talking about local haunts that they're kind of up in the air. They're kind of up in the air, and I want to talk about them. And they're in this area. They're around me, around Barberton, and Akron and stuff here in Ohio. And we're going to talk about how you can get involved with places like this, ghost hunting, and even possibly even hosting events. So that'll be Monday, and then Wednesday is going to be a really cool show too, because we are talking about actually my favorite cryptid, Bigfoot. Until next time, my pack, my tribe, peace.